Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of our 3 set dishcloths. In this tutorial we are going to be doing the large square pattern. So it's going to have 2 colors that are the same, which is going to be with my green here, and then we'll have a white square, and then I'll use an orange square. Okay, so I've already chained my 33, so that's what we're going to start with. You need to do a chain of 33. So you're going to see here that I have 2 hooks. So the pattern itself said to chain your 33 with your 5mm hook. So that's what I did, but then it says to finish the rest of the pattern with the 4.5mm hook. And I think that's because we want the sizing of all 3 dishcloths to match, but at the same time, to get to get a proper square, I think it must work out better to do a smaller hook size, which means that our stitches will be a little bit smaller. I did test this out just by using my 5mm hook, because I sometimes can't give up my 5mm hook. It's just my favorite hook to use. But I was quickly realizing that when I was building up the rows, that I was like, if I get to the other half to do the other 2 squares, it is going to be way bigger than the original dishcloth that we made with the checkered type with the small squares. So that is the reason behind that. So you do need to change and use a smaller hook. So the first thing that we're going to do, we are going to use, for the first 10 rows, we're going to be alternating between 2 different colors. We won't need to carry yarn through, because basically we're going halfway with the one color and then the other half with the second color. So we'll be able to leave that hanging. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. And again, this is all done in double crochet. So once again, we're going to start from the third hook, or sorry, the third loop, or third chain, I should say, from the hook. So not the one that is on your hook, and not this one that's gotten all tightened up there, or not this one. We're going to go into this hook here. And the reason we're doing that is because it's considering this as kind of like our first double crochet, so that we'll have even stitches across. So I just did our first one there, but technically we have 2. So we're going to do 14 more of these double crochets with this color. So we know the double crochet is that we yarn over, we go into our chain, we yarn over, and we pull up another loop. We yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. Okay, so I'm gonna have to count here because I haven't really been paying attention. I've just been kind of doing it. And if you know anything from crochet, is that you always need to count, because winging it just doesn't always work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I need to do 5 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we are doing a color change. So that last one, we don't want to finish off the double crochet, because we now need to bring in our white. So just leave a little bit of a tail. We can weave that in later. So we're just going to grab our white, and then we're just going to pull it through. So you might just have to pull down just to tighten up a little bit there. So now we're going to be using our white. So we're just going to finish off and go all the way across with 16 stitches in the white. So again, in the first pattern that we did with the small squares, we had to carry our yarn, but in this case we don't need to, because when we come back with the white for the second row, we're just going to pick that one up. So just make sure you don't, and then that tail just needs to step back there. Okay. So this pattern's a little more easier than that first one we did. I started with the hardest first. Whoops. Sorry. Because there was lots of color changes in that one. This is another color change, but kind of a different way of doing the color change. Just a couple more stitches here. All right, so that finishes off our first row with our two different colors there. So we're now going to chain 2, and then we're going to turn our work, and then we're just going to start double crocheting all the way across until we get to this stitch here, and then we'll do our color change. Okay, so just a couple more stitches to go there. So in this last one here, we're going to do our color change. So we're only going to go through the first 2 loops, and then we're now going to just pull up our green here now. We're going to pull it through. Okay. So now we can leave our white hanging. Get out of the way there. See if I can pull it up a bit. There we go. So it doesn't look like such a big line there. That's good. So that's the thing, when you like draw up your green there, you're gonna kind of, but I mean your one side is gonna look different. It won't have that unless we have it with the white there. But yeah, so I guess just kind of try to, I thought I did pull on it, but it seems like it's, just kind of want to try to not make it as noticeable when we're drawing that up. Let's take a look at it now there. That's a little bit better, but again, you'll probably notice, yeah, it just keeps pulling. You'll probably notice it, you won't notice it so much on the other side. That's okay. Yeah, so you won't really see that pulling up of the stitch. I guess we will now with this white one. that's okay. I mean, from a distance, it's still going to have that look. It kind of blends in. I'm probably just being way too picky about that. That's just the nature of how I feel about certain things, that it just, little things like that tend to bug me. But for the purpose of this video, we'll just carry on. So basically that's all we're going to do for the next 10 rows, is just go back and forth between the green and the white. And then once we hit the 11th row, that means that we'll change colors. So we're going to have white here, and then white will be up in this top corner, and then we'll have the green, and then we'll have the orange. So we'll have the two solid, like darker colors this way. So yeah, so when we get to that, we will continue on so we can see the color changes with the next two colors. And so that it just, I mean, that can be done. You could just cut it, but I'd rather just carry the white across this last row here. And then we can go forward with doing the white in this side here. Use our white. I think we'll just get started with that. We'll just do our chain 2 here. Tighten that off. Do the chain 2. Okay. And then we'll continue across. Just going to do a couple more stitches here, and then I'm going to cut that green so I can move it out of the way, because we're soon going to have to add the orange in here. Okay, just a few more stitches. So just the same process, just going along. Gets to be pretty repetitive at this point, so I mean, I understand if you just skip through some of this. I did have to do a lot of editing in the first video, just because it was way too long. And that's just because I tend to ramble in between there. Okay, so we're just getting ready to do our color change with the orange here, but I am going to cut this green. I'm just going to leave a bit of a tail, and then we can weave some of that in just to secure it. Okay, so again, when we change color, we don't finish off that last double crochet. We're just going to grab it, and not quite like that. Okay, just pull up a loop, leave a bit of a tail there that we can thread or weave in afterwards. Then we might want to pull down on the white just a little bit and the orange, just to kind of tighten it up a little bit there. And then we're just going to start. So again, we can leave the white hanging, because when we come back to do the next row, we will come up to that one. So I'm probably just going to thread over some of that orange that we have there. I won't thread through all of it, because I do like to weave it back and forth, because I find that when you just do a straight line like that, it's a lot easier for it to find its way through. So we don't want that to happen. So I'll probably just weave the rest in, going the opposite direction and then coming back again. Oh, it's getting away from me. All right, so that's changing the color now over to the orange. So that's pretty much all we're going to do now. There's nothing new to really to bring in, I guess. That's all the colors that we're going to work with now. So we just need to do another 10 rows of the white and the orange, and then we'll come back when we need to do the border, which is just going to be the exact same as when we did the first border in part 1. Okay, so we are now going to finish off the large square dishcloth by putting our border on. So I have switched back to my 5mm hook because that's what we did our chain with. So just to kind of keep, you know, the outside fairly even. Okay, so I mean, you can really start doing your border anywhere. We're just going to do a single crochet all the way across. I'm going to go in about the middle here just so I can show you what we do at the corner. And again, this is also in the first video as well. So I'm just going to go in and pull up a loop, and then we'll weave in this end afterwards. And we're just going to do a single crochet all the way across. It's definitely a very nice set. I like the pattern, and you know, it's a good set to, you know, practice doing your color changes. You know, there is multiple ways to do color changes, where I mentioned before, where you can just, you know, cut your yarn and weave in the end and then add the new one in. But I mean, if you can carry it along and it still looks okay and blends in okay, then that's what I would do. All right, so we're at the corner here. So every time we get to a corner, we're going to do a single crochet, but then we're going to chain one, and then we're going to do another single crochet into that corner, and that just helps kind of round off the corner, brings you around a little bit easier rather than just putting in a single crochet. So now we're along the side here, which makes it a little trickier, but generally you would just do 2 single crochets into each double crochet. I just kind of go, you know, where the spaces are. Try to stay in the frame here. It's hard because sometimes I can crochet looking through the camera, but there's times where I need to actually look underneath, so then I like move my hand positions and I end up out of the frame. So I apologize if that happens, but I usually catch on to it and bring it back. But yeah, so this is all we're going to do. We're just going to do a single crochet all the way across, or all the way around, I should say, on all 4 sides. And then we'll be finished. Then we'll just have to weave in the ends that we have there. And then we will move on to the next all right, so now you should have all 4 of your squares completed, and the last thing that we need to do is, of course, doing that single crochet border all the way around. So I've already partially started doing that. I just kind of wanted to pop on here again just to show you what you would do in the corner. So when you're doing along the sides like this, you want to typically do about 2 single crochets into each double crochet. So if you're doing that all the way around, it kind of keeps it fairly even, or I guess I should say on the 2 sides. When we go along here, it's just going to be in each stitch there. Okay, so we're almost at the corner here. So in the corners, what you do is we're going to do a single crochet, and then we're going to chain one, and then we're going to do another single crochet. So that just kind of gives it a bit of a corner. It rounds it off a little bit, as you can see there. And then we'll just continue to single crochet all the way across. And then once that's done, then you'll just weave in your ends. So I'll finish that off, and then we'll come back and we will see the finished product. All right, so that is the completed large square dishcloth. So we only have one more to go. So I just need to weave in these ends here to finish it off, but that's all that's really left. So stay tuned for the part 3, which will be the striped pattern. So that one is probably the most easiest to do. It's just doing different rows with the different colors. So you do 2 rows of each color and alternating kind of back and forth. And so we would need to carry our color up the side like we did in the first one when we changed colors. So that won't be too difficult. We won't have to carry any yarn through or you know, cut the yarn or anything like that. We can just carry it up the side, and then we will cover that up with our single crochet border. But yeah, so that is going to be the next video for this series. Stay tuned.